For our next session, I would like to welcome Mr. Vibhav Garg for addressing the topic Role of Public-Private Partnerships for Transformation of Healthcare and MedTech. Mr. Garg serves as the Director, Government Affairs Strategy, India Hub and Asian for Boston Scientific. He has extensive global experience of over 19 years in the areas of policy advocacy, brand management, regulatory and compliance, public affairs, corporate communications, and crisis management. He has been engaging with state and federal governments of India, South Asia, Southeast Asia, and other developing countries for various strategic healthcare initiatives and policy discussions with concerned stakeholders. Prior to rejoining Boston Scientific, he held various strategic positions with US and India headquartered organizations like GE Healthcare as Vice President Health Policy and Government Affairs, Boston Scientific India as Associate Director Health Economics and Government Affairs, Confederation of India Industry as Head of Life Sciences and Healthcare, Maskin Global Limited as Head of their Healthcare and Life Sciences initiatives. Most recently, Mr. Garg has been associated with India Pharmaceutical Alliance, the Pharma Trade Association, as Associate Secretary General. He has also been advising various departments in different ministries of Government of India like Department of IT, Health and Biotechnology in various capacities. Please welcome Mr. Garg.
Thanks, Irfa, for that elaborate introductions. Truly appreciate this opportunity, to speak in this um, um, Global Innovators Summit. And the topic that I'm going to speak about, public-private partnerships in healthcare and medical technology industry, is not a new area. I think it has been discussed thoroughly in India, outside India, globally, and now as a tool which more and more governments are using or have been using for over 2 decades now, to be able to augment the quality healthcare services for their citizens. And so the idea of this talk for next 30 minutes would be to familiarize the audience about what has been those steps, what has gone behind in last 2 decades in public-private partnerships, what are the initiatives that government of India has taken, what are the steps that some of the government outside India have taken to ensure that this partnership is bearing fruits for their country, when it comes to provide quality health services for the citizens. So I just would like to share my screen for the presentation that I have. Um, If is it visible to you? You just confirm.
Yes, it is visible.
Okay, fantastic. Um, Let me do a slideshow here. All right. Yep. So that's a title of my talk and discussion today, the role of PPP in transforming healthcare and medtech sector. So what I thought is I at least talk about the prominent challenges before the healthcare industry across the globe. Whether it is low or middle income countries or high income countries, all are struggling with them. I think we have the countries ranging from the countries who are spending less than 1% of their GDP on healthcare to countries who are spending more than 50% of GDP on the healthcare, and still they struggle with almost similar issues, which is more of financial sustainability, because the countries who are spending less are obviously wanted to spend more, but they are still struggling on how do they sustain these expenses, because in those countries private sector is predominantly playing the role of providing healthcare to the masses, and then of course to the countries spending more, the cost containment becomes a challenge, becomes a sort of objective for them, because they're not able to sustain those high costs or those high investments in healthcare for their country. Similarly, there are challenges around how do they really regulatory compliances and the cybersecurity becomes a challenge for a lot of digital health initiatives that have been sort of taking place across the country now in India has also been sort of foraying into through National Digital Health Mission. So that is something because always the technology goes ahead and regulations follow. So I think that becomes another issue again for all kind of countries. Then we also have the demands and the consumer needs and expectations. I mean today the patient, the consumer of healthcare is much more I think aware about what's going around him. I mean, the consultation is just a click away from him, and we have been hearing this in all other sessions of the conference that now digital health is making it even more easier for doctor to see the patient to see a doctor of his choice, of his specialty, and so on and so forth. And similarly, the digital innovation and transformation, which you just talked about in the previous segment, and of course new delivery models, right, which is improving access and affordability and also the availability when it comes to the newer technologies or the innovative technologies that we need access to. And then of course the one of the most important area that everybody is struggling in healthcare is retaining the talent, right? Because I think that's where it's all about the kind of people you have around who are providing those services across the industry. So I think these challenges every country is facing, and I think many of these challenges people feel can be addressed by getting into partnership mode between both the parties, the government, and the industry. And I think that's where we said that the with those six challenges, what are the five thrust areas that can be addressed using public-private partnership as a model. And so, of course, the infrastructure development, I think this has been taken up at the priority with most of the countries where, though India is very unique, if we see this, India is government is playing both a payer role as well as a provider role. While on one side we have PMSSY, which is committed to, sort of develop aims like institution in each and every state of the country. On the other side, we are also running the schemes like Ayushman Bharat PMJ, which is funding the procedures part of it. So I think so it is very unique situation where India is playing government of India is playing both payer and provider role. But I think infrastructure development as we go along, we have seen just a couple of years back a huge initiative taken by government of Orissa, where they wanted to build hospitals in a PPP mode. So I think that is one of the major area where people are sort of seeking this partnership to build more and more infrastructural support, whether it is hospital, whether it is diagnostic labs, whether it is the diagnostic imaging labs, and so on and so forth. So I think that's one very clear choice, which is helping governments across the globe, to be able to build health infrastructure. Then, of course, we're talking about how do we really enhance the efficiencies, operational economies, quality through management and operations. That's another area in the healthcare that people are looking at. Capacity building and training is definitely one area. Countries like India, where the number of doctors required, number of nursing staff required, number of the paramedical staff required, I think is definitely a need to train more and more people in this, and therefore a PPP model, in the capacity building, whether it is through the National Skill Development Initiative, which is under Healthcare Sector Skill Council in the country, or Life Science Sector Skill Council for other sectors as well. So I think that's a very clear area where PPP is bearing a lot of fruits, fruits of success out there. Financing mechanism, I think, is another very critical public-private partnership area where we see a lot of models how a third-party financing organization can come to become a part of this overall public-private partnership. So government is coming to provide provide the resources. The private industry is coming to provide the know-how of the things, and then of course the third partner, which is providing the the wherewithal, which is financing for the overall project that we're talking about. And then, of course, the materials management. So these are few areas, thrust areas. Then PPP, is sort of seen as a solution to all these problems, not just healthcare, but other industries as well. Um, then the next area that we could think of is, what are the success factors for a PPP? India forayed into PPP many years back. Obviously we'll discuss about it, but radiology, diagnostics, dialysis, primary health, many of them are very, very successful models of PPP in India. And then outside India, people have been talking about strengthening of health systems using PPP, building hospitals, running hospitals, and so on and so forth under PPP. But I think these are the four, very, very focused success factors that need to be in place for a PPP to be successful. Transparency is most important, the legal and regulatory framework. I think the clear responsibility of what each partner will do, I think, is very, very important. Governance models around the PPP, and of course the communication strategy. So I thought just share with you about what are the core areas that we need to be focusing on when we are getting into a PPP, particularly for healthcare and medtech sector. I think this is now discussed a lot across the globe. So when we talk about the public-private partnership, I think now we are talking about the people as a fourth P of PPP, because ultimately when you are creating a partnership, you are going to provide the health services to the masses, to people. So therefore, there's been a lot of discussion around involving or having the participatory governance by involving the representative of people into discussion, so that we don't have a blind spot when we are designing these PPPs, particularly for healthcare. Because how a patient sort of receives all these services is a very different perspective than how it is delivered either through government or a private partner. So I think it is very important to have that the people angle to the overall public-private partnership model. Then I thought to just bring in the common PPP models in healthcare that have been used across the globe. So of course we discussed about it, but infrastructure and financing for clinical and non-clinical services are one of the most important the infrastructure-based PPP models. Very, 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 very much in use. We talked about it. Whether you talk about the laboratory, radiology, and there are multiple sort of models which are implemented here, whether it is design, build, finance, maintain. You run it and you transfer it to the government. You run it on your own. The government keep funding you, and so on and so forth. So multiple models out there which are in usage right now in various states, countries, across the globe. Then, of course, the discrete services model, clinical services model, where you are offering the clinical services using a public-private partnership model. Here, mostly it is operational and management, through contracting that you sort of augment these models, between the two partners. And then, of course, the integrated PPP model, where you are talking about infrastructure financing, but non-clinical, clinical support services. So wherein you're talking about, you design, you build, you operate, and then you finally deliver back to the government. That's where you're talking about integrated partnership model. So various models in place which have been used by various governments, in the country and outside the country as well. Then, I thought of just sharing it. So what are the various areas where PPP has seen success, across the globe again? We talked about it, the hospitals, the health networks where we are designing, as I talked about, the health system strengthening has been the area where PPP has really found a lot of success stories around. Primary care, I think, is now seen as one of the areas where PPP is seen to be successful, and we have seen, we'll talk about in the few minutes, but I think the health and wellness centers that have come under Ayushman Bharat, we have seen a lot of private organizations have come forward to run these centers very, very effectively, providing preventive healthcare services, providing very essential screening services, and so on and so forth. So I think that has been a new area with a lot of focus coming along. Clinical support services are well known, in the getting run in the PPP mode. Of course, very specific clinical services. We talked about it. The diagnostic radiology, the dialysis, the national dialysis program run in the country are two very, very successful model, which are running in PPP mode for last, I think, empty number of years. And then, of course, non-clinical services and the operational management. How do you run the back office for the hospitals or the laboratories or the diagnostic, setup basically. So these are few areas where PPP has found a lot of acceptance, and performance has been fantastic in these areas. And we have seen some of the fantastic hospitals, laboratories which are running in this mode, and providing best of the possible services, and the quality services to the patients. Then so just I thought I'll take an example of how PPP for healthcare infrastructure really works. These are the sort of a building blocks, how it is sort of seen. So usually if you see, in the countries where whether it is the government providing the healthcare, India 20% is government funded healthcare, almost 80% is private funded healthcare. But there are countries where the government funded healthcare is much more. But I think still governments seek to build infrastructure in a PPP mode, so that there is a commitment from both sides. So we talk about the challenges, obviously, in terms of the insufficient funds that the government may have, the inadequate maintenance of the facilities, and of course the inefficient or or ineffective delivery of healthcare. So with these these challenges in purely public facilities, I think we get into a PPP mode on developing these infrastructure, as I said in the beginning, whether it is a hospital or a laboratory, diagnostic laboratory, or a diagnostic imaging center. I think that's where a PPP in healthcare infrastructure has been fantastic. A lot of we have seen these setups in various state governments, and now adopting, particularly in India. A lot of diagnostic imaging centers are coming in PPP mode, and a lot of in vitro diagnostic centers are coming in the PPP mode under the National Diagnostic Program of Government of India. So that's the example for that. I just thought of bringing one example from outside India, where from Turkey, which is one of the most attractive PPP market globally in terms of the support that the companies get from the government, the kind of PPP policies exist in the country. I mean, you will find long-term commitment from both sides. The PPP healthcare PPP projects are running like for from 10 years to 20 years to 30 years. Here you see an example for a maximum of period of 30 years. So just think of 3 decades of partnership that get into when you go into a PPP mode with various of these countries. Here we are talking about the build, lease, and transfer model, which is very, very successful. So private partners sort of build the whole sort of a capability, whether in terms of infrastructure or service providing and so on and so forth. Government keeps paying for it for a number of time, and then you finally sort of transfer this back to the government facility to sort of sustain it for a longer period of time. So I think there are clear examples of successful PPPs running for like decades and decades, which is truly the essence of PPP. You're not really talking about you build something and you transfer in 2 years and you get into the next. We are actually talking about the true partnership where there is a skin in the game from both the partners, whether it is public or private. So that's an example from outside India for Turkey. Coming to India, as I was talking in the beginning, we have seen multiples of PPPs successfully running and transforming the overall experience of patients. So whether you have national dialysis program where dialysis units are running across the country, on a PPP mode, Then you have, of course, the diagnostic imaging centers running across the country. And the best part is the cost is very, very low for the patient who are sort of um, getting the services from these centers. Very, very competitive pricing, as compared to outside. Government commits the certain number of guaranteed scans or dialysis and so on and so forth, and these centers keep running on a PPP mode. Then we saw the 108 ambulance service, one of the very, very fine PPP model running very, very successfully across the country. Then we have seen, medical colleges are now being sort of adopted by a lot of private partners to build tertiary care services around it under PMSSY. And then I discuss about health and wellness centers, which is I think a truly transforming the way primary healthcare is delivered in this country. Private players are coming and sort of building these health and wellness center. You have all Ayush, specialties. You have all screening, sort of provisions out there. Primary healthcare, a doctor is sitting out there, a nursing staff is there, and it is running fantastically well in many of the states where it is initiated. And I think all the states are coming forward to develop these with private partners. And then of late, we have seen even facilities, including mother and child health, are getting onto PPP mode. Few state government came forward, including I think Uttar Pradesh government came up with developing the mother and child health centers under PPP mode. So I think so. What we're trying to say here is, I think here is one tool, here is one mechanism through which we can truly build world class facilities. With the help of both private and public partner coming together and sort of playing their roles which they are supposed to play. One is bringing the resources, one is bringing the expertise, and providing the best available healthcare services, to the patients who are in need of these services in every nook and corner of the country. And I think these success stories, which I'm just displaying on this slide, are only few of I think many which are in pipeline and discussions. We talked about the non-communicable disease related PPP some couple of years before in various discussions. So I think there are a lot of things which are happening in pipeline as we are talking, and I'm sure a lot of these areas will come forward in a PPP mode. Hospitals are getting built in PPP mode as well. So I think we are right there when it comes to transforming this whole healthcare delivery in the country and outside the country as well. And so the last, what I thought is important for us to, what it requires is where we are doing best in the PPP and where we need to go forward. What do we need to take care? So I think today, if you see the outpatient services and the intervention services are definitely running well in a PPP mode. So when I say outpatient services, I'm mainly talking about the diagnostic services, the radiology diagnostic services, and the hospitals running in a PPP mode are very, very successful areas. However, I think if we see the upstream and the downstream, right? So upstream in terms of when we're talking about the early intervention, in terms of the preventive healthcare or the promotive healthcare, there I think is a huge scope of PPP models. A lot of insurance companies are now coming forward, where they want to incentivize for the people who remain healthy, who do not use insurance. So I think that area is absolutely wide open in terms of creating very innovative PPP models. The discussions are already on, and a lot of players are thinking through this. And then, of course, at the downstream side, where you're talking about inpatient services in the residential, so maybe the healthcare at home kind of area, where a lot of private players are there, but government is still sort of, I think, observing this area as to how do we get into providing that home, the healthcare at home, also the rehabilitation services, and so on and so forth. So I think once we are able to sort of cover those upstream and downstream areas of healthcare. I think the whole continuum of care will be covered from a PPP model perspective to provide those services in this mode, which I think will be very cost effective, highly quality oriented, and of course, we will be able to do more with less public funding which is available. And as government has committed itself to increase even the public spending on healthcare from around 1% to 2.5% in the next 4 to 5 years. I think there is huge scope of more PPPs coming into place in various different areas that have not been tried so far. Particularly if you see, the digital health area, which is again the wide open, particularly for India through National Digital Health Mission, where I think already a lot of private partners are pouring into to provide various expertise, whether it is platform building, application building, the architecture of the solution, or the cybersecurity side of it, or the patient tracking side of it, and so on and so forth. So you name it, and you can sort of have a private partner who can venture into this, as this is very, very promising to be able to provide access to healthcare to each and every Indian out there. I think PPP in digital health will be the key going forward once we have done the successful PPPs in the hardware of healthcare, which is developing infrastructure, labs, and so on and so forth. So I take a pause there from my talk, Irfa, and will be happy to take any questions out there.
Thank you, Vibhav. Thank you for the wonderful session. We have a couple of questions, but in the interest of time, I would like to address the most important one that we feel. One of them have asked, what are some of the top bottlenecks for open innovation in medtech industry in India?
I think innovation, open innovation is medtech. It is important for us to understand that medtech is an ever evolving area, right? I mean, you don't have any medical device which you sort of get it today and it'll work for you for 15 years, which is a very contrast from what we have in pharmaceuticals, right? You have a drug and it works for 15 years till the patent is there. So medical device, you see, you get a medical device today, and then you keep working with medical doctors, the fraternity, to keep improving it. So basically, open innovation, I see, unless you have a machine churning those open innovation continuously, I think you will be left behind. If you just keep something, you innovate something and you keep it in the public domain for the people to use it, it may not really see a long way or go a long way in helping the patient out there in the country. That's the biggest bottleneck I can see right now.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the response. And now I would like to move on to our next session.
Thank you, Irfa, for this opportunity. I appreciate this.